Hello and welcome to Between the Keyframes, where I discuss cartoons, animation, and all good things between. I am excited to share with you today one of my favorite Looney Tunes cartoons, What's Opera Doc. Epic music, beautiful artwork, and dramatic timing are just a few of the reasons why this cartoon is so great. Now I am here in this outdoor theater to get some fresh air and set the stage for this wonderful cartoon. The year is 1957. A group of men plan to deceive their superiors, divert company resources, and gain fame and fortune. Well, maybe not a fortune, but they did get fame and created a masterpiece. I'm not talking about a blockbuster movie script here, but the true story of how What's Opera Doc came to be. Director Chuck Jones, art director Maurice Noble, writer Michael Maltese, and their fellow artists at Warner Brothers all agreed to this ruse to get What's Opera Doc produced because it required many more weeks of production than a normal cartoon. Each year they're given a budget and a 5-week time frame per picture to produce 10 cartoons. But for the year 1957, they wanted to produce something special, so they hatched a little scheme. Several of those 10 cartoons would be Roadrunner cartoons. They would get so good at producing Roadrunner cartoons that it only took them 3 to 4 weeks instead of the allotted 5. So they doctored the time cards so that it reported to accounting that production lasted the whole 5 weeks. This gave them the extra time that they needed to make What's Opera Doc. Now, why did they need that extra time? Well, director Chuck Jones wanted to tell a classic story of Elmer Fudd catching Bugs Bunny, but to do it to a Wagner opera. Several big epic scores from Wagner's operas were modified and adapted. Songs such as Bride of the Valkyries would give grandeur to the simple cartoon. Once the scores were set, Maurice Noble would work with Michael Maltese to design the backgrounds and settings. It was decided to use flat imagery and extreme camera angles to get that epic feel they wanted. The story would also be told through color, blues and yellows for the morning sun and shadows, pink, white, and green for the springtime love is in the air scenes, and red and black for vengeance and anger. The amazing voice artists Mel Blanc and Arthur Bryant would then perform the voices for Bugs Bunny and Elmer Fudd. And what really helped add authenticity to this cartoon was that they each were really naturally good singers and could sing in their characters' voices. So, let's take a closer look at What's Opera Doc. In the beginning, we see a storm being controlled by a monster, with a large menacing shadow cast about the side of a gargantuan cliff. Who is this beast that controls the weather? As the camera pans down with the shadow, we see not a beast, but a small man. The music quiets down to prepare us to hear with anticipation the voice of our villain, Elmer Fudd.
Be very quiet, I'm hunting rabbits.
The soft singing voice of Elmer Fudd cuts through, just like you'd hear at the beginning of an opera, and we are greeted with his quest to hunt the rabbit. Off he goes, following its tracks, and then we hear the most famous of cartoon quotes.
Kill the rabbit, kill the rabbit, kill the rabbit.
Now here we are introduced to Bugs Bunny, inquiring through singing, of course.
What's up, Doc?
Elmer Fudd says he's there to kill the rabbit with his spear and magic helmet.
Your spear and magic helmet?
Yeah, that's what I said, magic helmet.
Spear and magic helmet,
Magic helmet?
Yeah, magic helmet.
magic helmet.
Magic helmet.
Elmer Fudd decides to give the rabbit a sample of what he can do with his magic helmet.
Bye.
Bugs Bunny rushes off, but being the cunning, cool, under-pressure type, disarms Elmer Fudd by dressing as Broomhilda, a German fairy tale princess, to win Elmer's heart and hopefully be freed from his murderous ways. A hilariously fat horse drops the dainty little damsel across Elmer's path, and an expertly animated ballet begins. Extra care was given to the sequence. Chuck Jones had 2 ballet dancers that would come in and pose for the animators so that they could turn in a realistic performance. And it shows. This is something that a lot of great production studios would do for their animators. In order for an animator to turn in a believable performance, they need good reference material. Suddenly, the music drops, and the ruse is discovered. Elmer's heart is broken. Rage takes over. Anticipation builds as Bugs runs away.
I'll kill the rabbit.
Elmer Fudd turns red and summons the most destructive elements in our weather, including, hilariously, smog, and smashes its fury down upon the little rabbit. With his quest at an end, Elmer Fudd runs down to see what has happened, and we are greeted with a lone, broken flower, piercing sunlight, and a rabbit smote upon a rock. Elmer Fudd has killed the rabbit.
I've killed the rabbit.
Elmer is pierced with remorse. He picks up the lifeless body and takes it up the stairs. To what? To heaven? To divine forgiveness? We are given no answers, but what with our imaginations come up with. Even Bugs Bunny has to pop back up to remind the audience that yes, this cartoon is different and there is no happy ending in operas. Future Justin here. Well, actually, if you are watching this, then I'm still in the past, but the future of the past within this video...
Get on with it!
Okay. Anyway, I want to take a minute and talk about some of the excellent animation going on here. Let's look at my favorite shot where we first meet Elmer Fudd. This is a wonderful example of a technique called smearing, where in one frame of animation you draw a combination of several frames, mimicking how motion blur works in film. Director Chuck Jones first pioneered this technique, and he uses it here to great effect. Another thing I want to point out is in the movements of Elmer himself. I love how the animator transitions him from pose to pose. If you pay attention, Elmer never finishes a move without starting a new one, which makes the scene seem very fluid. His right hand goes down as his left arm goes up, while his head tilts back and his legs shift weight and raises him in the air. It's fantastic. I also love how the animator takes his time with the left arm and fingers. It's very smooth and graceful. It also makes it funny because Elmer Fudd is not known for being smooth and graceful. Then he puts on his hat and grabs the spear, but does it in one continuous motion so it doesn't look so robotic. In contrast, if we were to look at Bugs Bunny's introduction, you'll notice that his animation is a bit more robotic and blocked out. He eats the carrot, then puts it behind him, poses with his hands, and turns and stretches out his left arm. He's always finishing a move before he starts a new one. This tells me that the keyframes had to have been drawn by someone else, such as the director, and the animator just filled in the in-between frames as opposed to the scene with Elmer Fudd, where I believe the entire animation was solely done by the animator. Anyway, I find it fascinating what you can learn about the production of a cartoon when you slow things down and go frame by frame. Now, back to the past, or the future of the past. When What's Opera Doc was released, there's not much fanfare about it. No awards, no articles written about it. It took several years and many viewings later on through television for it to stand out against the other Warner Brothers cartoon library. But finally, it would eventually get its due. And in 1992, What's Opera Doc received the highest honors when it became the first short cartoon to be inducted in the National Film Registry for being culturally significant. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and joining me on this awesome journey of discovering great cartoons. I'm Justin Owen, and this is Between the Keyframes. Thank you for watching.